Hello and welcome to our meeting about the new inclusive universal pre-kindergarten classes. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your questions, thoughts, and ideas about the exciting changes ahead. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself and my colleagues. My name is Gemma Purdy and I am the Educational Coordinator here. With me today are two of our general education pre-kindergarten teachers, one of our early childhood special educators, and one of our special education itinerant teachers, or SEITs. We represent the core administrative and educational team that will be working with you and your children both to get this new program up and running and on a daily basis going forward. Later, we'll tell you exactly what each of us does and how we support you and your children. Today we're here to share some information with you about the new inclusive universal pre-kindergarten program and to address any concerns that you might have. You are important members of your children's educational teams and we want to make sure that you play an active role in their education. In order to understand the changes ahead of us, let's start by talking about what inclusion really means. Inclusion means that with the help of supports, all children can and should be engaged and active participants in the classroom. These supports include, but are not limited to, assistive technology, additional teachers, specialized aids, and individualized teaching strategies. Assistive technology means any object that helps a person with special needs, from simple things such as thicker pencils that are easier to hold, to more complicated items like electric wheelchairs that help children move about the classroom. Additional teachers and classroom aides will join each class to help the children with special needs be a part of all activities while learning new skills and staying safe. Additionally, all teachers will use individualized teaching strategies. That is to say that they will adjust the ways in which they teach to meet the needs of each student. But what does this really mean and what does it look like in practice? In a broad sense, this means that since all children of all abilities are important members of society, they should be able to play, learn, and grow side by side with their typically developing friends who do not have delays or disabilities. This means that they should physically spend some or all of their days in the same classroom as their peers, they should be taught the same material alongside their peers, and they should be included as active participants in the social activities of the classroom. But what does the law say about inclusion? In 1975, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act was passed. This act secured many legal rights for children with special needs and their families, including the right to a free, appropriate public education. In 1986, this act was re-examined and some changes were made. Congress passed a new version of the act that included state-level early intervention programs for infants, toddlers, and preschoolers with special needs, as well as the idea that children should be educated and receive special services in the least restrictive environment. This is a term that means that, to the greatest extent possible, children with special needs should be educated and receive special services alongside their typically developing peers. In 1990, the Education for All Handicapped Children Act was renamed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. In 1997, IDEA was reauthorized by Congress, and one of the changes made was the addition of the term natural environments as the best type of learning environment for young children. Both of these changes show a shift in the way educational professionals and legislators were viewing special education. Special education was no longer about identifying differences or deficits. It was about making sure that all children were involved members of society. The legal basis for inclusion is very important, but what matters the most at the end of the day is the impact that inclusion has on the students. Legal and instructional decisions are all based on evidence gained from scientific studies. This research helps teachers make the best possible decisions for their students. Studies have shown that the classroom changes that are necessary to bring students with special needs into general education classrooms positively impact the learning and development of typically developing students as well. By assisting and working closely with their friends with special needs, students learn new academic and social skills. Additionally, studies have shown that typically developing students tend to have more positive self-concepts in inclusive classrooms than in strictly general education classrooms. Basically, since the educational approach tends to be more cooperative, the children have more opportunities to share their knowledge, show their abilities, and feel proud of their accomplishments. There have also been studies that show that the quality of instruction that all children receive in an inclusive setting is higher than in typical general education classrooms. This may be because of the high level of attention paid to every decision made by educators and administrators in inclusive classrooms. As we discussed earlier, educators tend to individualize learning programs to a greater degree in inclusive classrooms, giving each student every possible chance to succeed. We look at each child as an individual with their own unique abilities, challenges, likes, and dislikes. Students with special needs also tend to succeed in inclusive classrooms. Studies have compared the outcomes of children with special needs in inclusive classrooms to those of children in dedicated special education classrooms, and the results point strongly to the benefits of inclusive settings. The least restrictive environment for many children with special needs is an inclusive classroom. In this least restrictive environment, children with special needs tend to be more actively engaged, both academically and socially, and they usually make meaningful progress with the help of their typically developing friends. Later in this presentation, we will go into greater detail about exactly how all children can benefit from inclusive classrooms.
A joint position statement on inclusion by the Division of Early Childhood and National Association for the Education of Young Children was released in April of 2009. These associations released this statement to help ease confusion and misunderstandings about inclusion in early childhood classrooms. It is a guideline for making sure inclusion programs across the country are as successful and high quality as possible. The position statement includes concrete examples for educators, families, and administrators to use when implementing an inclusion program. The Division of Early Childhood and the National Association for the Education of Young Children first help those involved in inclusion programs by defining it and explaining important characteristics. It provides a helpful baseline for classroom teachers to reference consistently to make sure the program is running smoothly and remaining effective. Most importantly, APS. A stands for access. Is the physical space accessible to all children? Is learning being differentiated for each child's specific needs? Are UDL, or Universal Design for Learning, practices being put into place? That is every child able to access the curriculum in a way that is meaningful and useful to them? The P stands for participation. Is every child an engaged member of the classroom? Are there practices in place that encourage and support each child to participate to their greatest potential? And finally, the S stands for supports. Is the administration providing the resources needed to run a successful program? Are team members working cooperatively together? Is the funding being used in a useful way? These guiding questions help teachers, families, and the administration to keep reflecting and keep striving to improve the inclusion program. Educators also benefit greatly from the Code of Ethics provided by the Division of Early Childhood. The Code of Ethics addresses the practice of each educator in the classroom. For example, a special education itinerant teacher, or SEIT. It guides the educator to reflect on their professional practice, that is, their language, behaviors, and interpersonal skills in the classroom and workplace, professional development, including self-assessment and reflection, as well as workshops, research, and advice from visiting specialists, responsive family-centered practices, which address each and every family's right to be respected and celebrated in the classroom community, and to be completely included and informed about all that goes on in the classroom and with their child. And finally, ethical and evidence-based practices, which promote the reliance on current, validated, appropriate research strategies to be used and documented confidentially. The Division of Early Childhood and the National Association for the Education of Young Children have eased confusion about what an inclusion program is. The definition of inclusion helps illustrate its benefits for children with special needs and typically developing students. The position statement helps educators, families, and administrators constantly keep their programs effective, successful, and enjoyable for all who are involved.
As we mentioned earlier, in an inclusive classroom, many different types of educators need to work together. As the educational coordinator, I provide support for the teachers by allocating resources and advising on program planning decision-making. At the same time, I need to ensure that everyone's needs are being met in all classes, including those of the staff, students, and families. I set up planning sessions for the teachers, provide opportunities for professional development through workshops and conferences, and maintain ongoing support for the teachers, students, and families. Essentially, I make sure that the teachers have all the tools they need to provide your children with the best education possible.
Early childhood educators' roles change when working in an inclusive classroom. In a general education, non-inclusive classroom, the teacher makes a curriculum for a group of students with an expected narrow range of abilities. When working in an inclusive classroom, the curriculum must be changed for a group of students with a wide range of skills. Moreover, the lessons taught in the classroom are expected to teach all the students in the room regardless of ability. The early childhood educator is expected to teach both sets of students with equal quality and expectations. Let's talk a bit about collaboration. When working as an early childhood educator in an inclusive classroom, the biggest role to play is working as a collaborative teacher with the special educator. Collaborative teaching consists of two teachers who plan, teach, and assess the students as a team. The reason for this is because children with disabilities have the right to high-quality education given by the early childhood educator. The main goal of collaborative teaching is to meet general curriculum requirements while meeting the developmental needs of all students. The main role of all teachers in an inclusive classroom is to work together.
The special educator is in the classroom to support the students with special needs. I will be there to ensure these students are included in the classroom. Both the general education teacher and I will be taking turns to give over lessons. When we create the lessons, I will be adapting them to the specific needs of the students with special needs. I will also use the lessons to make materials that will help these students during or after class, giving them tangible and meaningful ways to comprehend the lesson. This will help the children to understand the lesson and practice the skills or ideas that were learned. As was mentioned previously, the goal is for all students to learn the same lesson. It is my job to do whatever is necessary to ensure that each student learn the lesson. Since both teachers set up the rules and routines, I will be paying close attention to ensure that the environment fit the specific needs of all students. Every activity will be carefully planned so all students will be able to actively participate. I will also be spending one-on-one time or sit beside children who may need extra help. I will be doing this to make sure that each child gains the most from each lesson and activity. If any child needs a behavioral plan, together with you, we will create and implement a plan that will work best for your child. Keeping track of individualized education plans as well as making sure that the students are meeting their goals is my main job. It is important that each child be given the services that they need. We will constantly be evaluating the progress of each child using standardized testing. I will also be a part of the meeting to plan and review IEPs. This will be done with you, the parents, teachers, and specialists. This multidisciplinary team will be in touch throughout the year to make sure that IEP goals are being met. I will do whatever I can to make sure that each child has up-to-date and practical goals in order to succeed. It is important for there to be constant communication between us. I will be available to schedule conferences on a daily basis and can always be contacted by email.
A SEEIT is a special education itinerant teacher who works with children who have special needs. SEEITs are found in general education rooms, inclusion classrooms, and self-contained classrooms. As a SEEIT, I do my best to blend into a classroom. I also support the rest of the students. I help a child one-on-one during instruction, busy times in the day, and any other times of need throughout the day, social, academic, or other. I change materials and curriculum for the needs of my student. A SEEIT may also physically help a child if needed. An example of a task I may help my student with would be playing and interacting or talking with other friends. I may work with small groups of children during a lesson or during lunchtime. The materials I make and use with my own student are open to all the students in the class. There are many benefits of having multiple educators in a class. Each person has the chance to help the children and plan for them with other educators who know the child just as well. According to the Division of Early Childhood Code of Ethics, the team will respect and celebrate the different backgrounds and skills of each person in the classroom. This way, every child in the classroom is benefiting from each educator's best work. The teachers also have each other to lean on and brainstorm with to make sure their ideas are remaining fresh and new. There are also more adult bodies in the room, therefore more support and help for each individual child.
Inclusion can be helpful for children with and without special needs. This slide will be discussing the benefits of inclusion for children with special needs. Children with disabilities that are placed in inclusion classrooms show many positive effects, including the development of social and emotional skills. Emotional skills include self-soothing and self-regulation skills. Self-soothing meaning how a child can calm themselves down. Self-regulation meaning to control impulses to stop or start doing something. Social skills include expressive and receptive language. Expressive language meaning the ability to speak, and receptive meaning the ability to hear and understand language. Children placed in a social and expressive environment learn from each other. While learning these skills, they are able to boost their use of language while using their peers as models. This higher level of social skills is found to have a lasting effect on children in their future as well. These children learn self-help skills that can be modeled by their peers. Self-help skills include eating, going to the bathroom, and dressing themselves. With appropriate models in the class, children can learn to copy proper behaviors and skills. These children have fewer feelings of not being part of the group. They are also more likely to reach their developmental goals and milestones. When children are put into inclusive classrooms, more skill is expected from them. Children have a higher chance of achieving their goals when included. Studies show children with developmental delays and hearing difficulties engaged in advanced levels of play when included. Research has also found that children with autism who are placed in inclusive classrooms are found to improve their behaviors and class participation. It has also been found that children who are excluded and separated from their typically developing peers are unable to have appropriate models and therefore are less likely to reach their developmental goals and milestones. This slide will be discussing advantages of inclusion for typically developing children. Typically developing children that engage with children with disabilities can learn to start social interactions and initiations with their peers. They maintain and initiate friendships with children who may be different. They learn to share. They learn to be understanding and accepting of all children. Children are found to play nicer, fairer, and with more equality when engaging children with special needs. While learning these skills, children learn to accept others in the future. When children help their peers, they are made to feel like experts or tutors. With this strong sense of self, they are made to feel valued. They feel important when they are able to help out their peers with class material. Research shows that these children feel prouder of themselves, gain confidence, and have higher self-esteem. They learn more independence. They develop strong leadership skills. These gains help children maintain a better managed classrooms. When typically developing children are introduced to children with special needs at a young age, they are more likely to approach individuals with special needs with a positive outlook and less likely to view a disability as an impairment. With this positive outlook, children can improve school and classroom environments. Inclusion has not been found to have any negative effect on children. There have only been positive effects shown. These are just a few reasons as to why inclusion is so important and beneficial for both children with and without disabilities. It is important to remember these reasons as your child begins this program, and important to remember the benefits they will get from an inclusive classroom.
From an education view, studies show that there are no negative effects on children with typical or special needs in inclusive classrooms. All students get the same amount of attention from the teachers. Also, lessons in both inclusive and non-inclusive classrooms are the same amount of time. From a social view, children with typical or special needs talk and work together in the classroom. From a behavioral view, with classroom rules, students learn right and wrong behavior and learn good behavior from one another. There is no more violence in inclusive classrooms than when compared to other classrooms. Students learn from the teacher that this is not allowed. Imitated behaviors are not connected to inclusive classrooms. Rather, it has to do with the way the teachers handle the students. The behavior of all students in the class is based on teaching practices. It is a teacher's job to work with the actions of all students. If a child with typical or special needs is having a behavior problem, the teacher must work to fix it. Finally, a bit of advice from other parents. 89% of parents would enroll their child in an inclusive program again when presented with the opportunity.
We hope that you have found this presentation helpful. We want to make sure that each parent feels comfortable sending their child to the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Inclusive Program. We hope that you feel this program will be a positive experience for your child's education. We ask that you take a few minutes to fill out the family feedback form that we have posted onto our website. This form can be found under the What Inclusion Means tab. We have created this form so that you can share with us how you felt our presentation was. We want to know what we can do to make it better and more helpful for our future parent body. We would like to know what you found to be helpful and informative. We would also like to know if you felt that there was anything that we should have covered. If there are any questions on the form that you feel you do not understand, please feel free to email me or any of the other presenters. You can find our emails by going to the supplemental information page on our website and looking at each of the handouts. If you would like to fill out the form on a hard copy, you can stop by the office to pick one up. Please fill it out and give it back into the office. If you have any concerns that you feel were not covered today, please make sure to share this with us at the bottom of the page so that we can answer any questions that you still have. As you move through the page on the site, please make sure to click Submit as you finish. We appreciate your feedback and look forward to working together with you this coming year.